South Dakota. It's going to be a little bit shorter. And hopefully, let's see here. I'm going to remove that one. Get my tech here from the car. And you got to love technology, right? So I hope that all works. I'm getting weird things. Okay. So hopefully we're good. And I hope everyone's having a great week. All right. So this week, I had a couple things on my mind. First of all, we had planned our trip home to South Dakota to see our family back here. This is my home state. And so we're coming back to visit. And I teased my dad that he just wanted to make the visit all about him. So he, and I'm teasing, of course, but my father has had a heart attack. And fortunately, he is doing okay. I mean, he's with us, so that's good. But I'm just going to ask. I know I've got so many of you who are prayer warriors, and I am just going to ask some very specific prayers from you for my father. And so I would love prayers that his kidneys step up their game, that they start working properly again. That will be a huge help. And also for his heart muscle, that that will be strengthened, and that his heart will start pumping more effectively again. So that I wanted to come on tonight because I'm like, hey, I know the power of prayer, and I'm just asking that those of you who pray, that you will pray for my father's kidneys and his heart muscle, that we can get all those working great. That would be a huge blessing. He's not used to being down, and he's been very active all his life. So anyway, thank you for that. I really appreciate your prayers. I also just want to take a minute to thank each of you who have messaged me in the past months, and it's really meant a lot. So when I get messages from you guys that have shared that this Doing Life Together series has been a blessing in some way or another, that makes my heart very happy. So thank you. Also, I did a quick little wellness class. I guess it was just an hour, short and sweet, but covered a lot of the basics. And especially now with Dad being in the hospital, honestly, I'm really grateful for our hospital for acute things. However, really, one of my little life goals, if I can be honest, is to help all of us stay out of the hospital system, right? Like, it is a sick care system, right? Like, and I want to spend my time in the well care, in the wellness. And so it is a passion of mine. And I wanted to ask you guys, as my viewers, what would be helpful on the wellness side of things? Because I will probably do some more wellness classes. I feel like it's so important. There's so many things in life that are preventative. You know, now with genetic testing and things like that, I think some people are like, oh, it's all in your genetics. And I guess I sit in a slightly different place. I actually believe it is more, do they call it our epigenetics? But I think it's more in our lifestyle choices. And that we may have a propensity in our genetics, but that actually gets set off by our lifestyle choices. And of course, I hope you guys always know that this time together never comes from a place of judgment. I'm just on the journey with each of you, and I certainly do not live the perfect wellness journey. However, I am so excited about some things that I have discovered in the past 5 years, and what a difference they've actually made. You guys know I've talked about anti-aging, and I'm bumping the big 50, right? Like, that's not too far away. And that means that for many women, that puts us in the perimenopause or menopause state, and postmenopause for some as well, depending on. And also, I was not thrilled to start seeing fine lines and wrinkles coming, if I can be honest. And right now in today's world, Botox is super popular. Like in our area, there's literally Botox parties where you show up, you get your Botox as a group, and you go home. And I have to be honest, like, as I look at people who have utilize that. Again, no judgment. I'm a little jealous as I see, okay, like no fine lines, like that's amazing. However, my personal thing is I would love to find another way that doesn't entail those injections. That's just me. Now, everybody make your own decisions, but that has been one of my little things. And yes, is it slightly vain? For sure. For sure. However, what I found is that many things that help our skin heal, restore, reverse those signs actually also help our body be healthier too at the same time. So I think that's pretty cool. And I have definitely noticed, I can see it in photos of me, that my skin is not perfect, but it has most definitely improved, like quite dramatically, actually. I can even see it, which is kind of surprising because we're always so critical in the mirror. So anyway, wellness is a passion. And I think that wellness does impact our external wrapping, whatever, as well as, of course, our inside, our organs. And, you know, I've been talking about cortisol levels and how detrimental they are, especially women around my age, right? The perimenopausal time, cortisol becomes even more problematic. And so that's one place to start, is looking at how can we decrease our cortisol levels. That's huge. But I think there's so many health hacks. I've mentioned, I think it was last week, that I counted up over 10 red lights. Light therapy has fascinated me. It's got a ton of research. And so I've spent thousands. We won't talk about how much I've spent on red lights and light therapy in general, because I do believe it's non-invasive. I feel like it has scientific studies galore to support it. And I feel like it also has other benefits besides just skin. But with that said, I just invested in yet another red light, and I am blown away by this red light. It is so much more powerful. I'm really blown away, and it has more wavelengths. So the cool thing about red light is that different wavelengths of red light have been studied for certain things. So there's certain wavelengths of light. Red light is probably the most studied, but obviously on the spectrum of light, there's yellow light, green light, blue light, purple light, and then of course, red light. But different wavelengths, like there's actually a wavelength of red light that has been studied around breast tissue. So again, with breast cancer altogether too common, I'm fascinated. What if red light were able to, and in a nutshell, it seems to me that it increases. Hi, Carrie. Good to see you. Marsha, wonderful to see you. It seems that it increases your blood flow, which gets all of your body's healing through your body, right? Like blood flow is critically important. Getting inflammation down is critically important. And another thing that I have found, going back to skincare, so this red light, messaged me. Actually, I think if you go to fullspectrumredlight.com, fullspectrumredlight.com, I think you'll find the one that I just got. And what I love is it's way more efficient, because most of mine are much smaller and they don't have as many wavelengths. So there's wavelengths of red light that impact your bones, your bone healing, things like that. There's ones that are more superficial, impact your skin. And it's just a fascinating study. And I love that this one has all those wavelengths, but also it covers more of a full body, and you can actually buy it with a stand. And so I'm so excited about this. Now, I love all my red lights, and I've got them in different places so that I can kind of, like, I'm traveling with one now. I always travel with my red light, and I red lighted earlier today. But I love this one because it has a stand that it just like hangs above me. So I just can lay on a bed, and then this red light just hangs over me. It's really ideal. When I got my previous favorite, which I will say this has actually surpassed what I used to recommend in my opinion so far. I'm blown away by it actually. But I told Willie, I'm like, I wanted to buy several of those because they were so much smaller. And I was like, Willie, can you build me something where this hangs over my body? And like, this is what I wanted. So now I found one with the stand, and it's been fantastic. But I was going to say something else. So one of the things that I have found about my skin that makes a huge difference, and it makes sense actually, is alcohol. So I'm not a big drinker, but sometimes, like especially with Norwex, every year we can earn a free trip, and very often we're at an all-inclusive resort, and they're bringing you margaritas and whatever. And I just learned the last few trips, I'm like, no thanks, because it actually takes a pretty notable toll on my skin. Like I can actually see the difference between when I have, and I'm not even talking a lot of alcohol. Now I'm pretty much someone who's a moderation girl, and I don't think there's anything wrong if you want a margarita, but what I've learned is that I don't think my body likes it. Like, even though I think it's a social thing, it's highly social in our society. It's built into almost the fabric of social togetherness in so many ways. But yeah, I was actually floored. I didn't realize I would go on the trips, and I don't really drink any other time. But when someone's bringing you a little fancy Mai Tai, it's like, oh yeah, that sounds lovely. And I would notice, like, oh my goodness, my wrinkles were so much more dramatic. And it took me a while to put it together. So I believe that. I also believe sugar is very much detrimental on about every single front. And so for me personally, when I choose to sweeten something, my personal sweetener of choice is high quality, real maple syrup. And I actually love just a little maple syrup is, with some plain yogurt instead of buying the sweetened, although we sometimes buy the sweetened yogurt too. But anyway, so that's just an idea if you're looking to cut back on sugar. Now, I grew up, and in my younger years, I think financially, things were a little too tight to be investing in pop. It was a special thing. And you can tell I'm from up north. We call it pop, but I know it's called soda or Coke in all of our areas. But anyway, and so I didn't grow up in the younger years really having it much. But as I got into high school, many of you know, I've shared our journey. We were drinking regular pop. And then at some point, diet soda became all the rage. And I jumped on the bandwagon, and I literally would say, and I don't have facts for this, why it would be addictive, but I would say that I literally felt like it was an addiction. I craved diet soda, and I drank ridiculous amounts of diet soda. So along with sugar being very detrimental, and again, remember, my goal is to keep you out of the medical system. I don't want you to, and me, I want to keep us all. I want to keep my dad out of that. I'm like, no. Now, my dad, I said I'm going to make him sign a contract, no more soda. Like it's just not good. And I'm as dead set against the diet as I am the fully leaded or whatever, the normal. So especially because it's high fructose corn syrup, which I think is even more of a problem on a few various fronts. But anyway, it's just like, okay. So my opinion, as I've researched alcohol more, there were some studies that said red wine, because of the phenols in it, that it could possibly have some benefits on the heart. However, I think there's been some studies that have even debunked that. And I have followed for over a decade Dr. Amen. It's like Dr. Amen, Amen. Fascinating. And I actually had the privilege of hearing him present live, and he presented all of the brains. And one of the things he's found is there's really no amount of alcohol that is helpful for your brain. And again, as we look at what's going on in our world and the rise of dementia at younger ages, it's just an interesting thing to say, okay, I know that alcohol is woven into our social fabric, but But what if it is doing more harm than we could have thought on a variety of fronts? So anyway, that is what I've got tonight. Mostly I wanted to pop on. My kids are over there playing pickleball, and we played frisbee golf. So all the aunts and uncles are mobilizing the forces to get us some fun things to do. Well, we're up visiting dad at the hospital and whatever. So anyway, so let me just see here if there are any comments. Sorry, I've got kind of on Instagram. Say hey, and remember, anyway. Okay, so for today, my top thing, I would so appreciate your prayers over my dad's kidneys and heart specifically, and that he can be back to living a full life, and that there will be healing of his heart and his kidneys. And so, yeah, that's my number one. But in the process, if you guys want to research red light, it is truly phenomenal, actually, on so many things. Like, there's so much science behind red light. And you can just, again, go to fullspectrumredlight.com. I think that's right. Otherwise, message me if that's not right. Thank you so much. I appreciate your prayers so much. And I recommend the full body one, but there's a package that, speaking of anti-aging, has a face mask. So then you can actually like wear that on your face, and that's made specific for your skin. And there's actually a red light cap. Red light has been quite researched on healthy hair growth. So that's another, it's just incredible. It's just a really cool science. And I think it makes sense because, like I talked about a couple of weeks ago, or, God gives us red light in nature. But unfortunately, in the current society we live in, very few of us are out at sunset soaking in that red light every night. And so to be able to bring it into your home where you don't have to pay, there are places you can go to, like medical clinics or wellness clinics or whatever, and you can go lay in a red light bed, but it's not cheap. And I also don't think that it happens very often when it's not actually in your home. So I'm a huge proponent of that. And, depending on what you need it for, I think having the different wavelengths makes a lot of sense as well. All right. Well, we are going to go and get a little bite to eat. It's hard to eat healthy when you're traveling. Anyone else find that? What is your best healthy eating tips? And then as I close, I would love to hear from a wellness standpoint as we do more deep dives on how to keep you healthy and thriving instead of just surviving. I feel like so many of us are just surviving. And of course, there's a spiritual component to that. I feel strongly, but nutrition is probably your number one. And then, of course, detoxing and activity. Also, if you need a copy of the wellness workshop or class I did, it was just an hour, 60 minutes, but I think it gets you started on a few good things to be thinking about. And they're not rocket science. However, sometimes we need to hear things. They say like 21 times we need to hear it. And then the most important thing is not just to hear it, but to actually implement those simple, often free things that can help you stay healthy and wise. So, all right. Good to see you all. I am going to say goodbye for this week, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us.